just apart from playing music to figure out poetry, the one person we always thank for every organising event is Mr. Herbie. She put the arts festival has been a great success. It's been just as good as last year. I hope everyone's enjoyed it. And then one last thing, I didn't say this, but thank you so much, Ms. Foley, for everything you've done for all the students. And then let's hope the final winners are you the 60s who win this debate.
Welcome to the second annual debate between the 5th and the 6th years from the Glenstal Education Society. The society has been in existence for 14 years now and owes its continued existence to an act of bullying that took place when the current 6th years were in 4th year and demanded that I include them in it as well. So now they get to prove themselves against the young Turks that are nipping at their heels to be from 5th year. The motion before the House is a very topical one. It is that this House would abolish transition year. More to about that in a second. But I would like to welcome our distinguished panels of adjudicators this afternoon, starting with Stefan Traynor. Mr. Traynor is a graduate of Queen's University in Belfast and has done postgraduate research and study in Durham University, and in both universities he participated in the debating clubs and societies there and has been a great assistance in the running of the society here. Our next adjudicator is Rona O'Neill. Rona is well known to you as a very much beloved teacher of Irish here. Agus freshen Stuart O'Rourke Common story such a so I'm sure Fearwick that us the cover our law youth. Our distinguished external adjudicator is the Reverend Professor Dr. Eamon Conway, until recently the head of theology Professor of Theology and Head of Department in Mary Immaculate College in Limerick, and currently Professor of Theology in Notre Dame University in Australia. So we're very honoured to have Dr. Conway here with us this afternoon, and very grateful that you are have been able to take the time to adjudicate. The motion will proceed, the debate will proceed as follows. Each speaker will speak for 5 minutes. During the first 30 minutes, they may not be interrupted by any other speakers to offer them points of information. At the end of 30 seconds, Mr. Traynor will ring the bell, as we now demonstrate. After which it will be the floor will be open to the other speakers to offer points of information. And then the final 30 seconds of the speech are also protected time, during which no points of information shall be offered. So without further ado, I'm now going to call on the speaker for the proposition, Mr. Ethan Tierney, to address us or to propose the motion that this House would abolish transition year. Mr. Tierney.
Chairperson, adjudicators, members of the proposition, opposition, and our esteemed audience. Transition year is deemed an integral part of the school experience here. And while we could spend days talking about the school's hard work in creating a programme that supposedly benefits all, with the memories students make in the year, what this motion is about is whether transition year has proved itself to be a year that we can say, without hesitation, deserves to continue. I, Ethan Tierney, Theo Cruddigan and Brennan Collins can tell you it has not. Throughout the debate, we heard the opposition talk of the unique opportunities TY offers. And it is true, the year does offer unique opportunities to fall asleep in the back of my own class and would like to take again. And while it is great to reminisce about those glory days, at some point you have to wake up to the harsh truth that fourth year does not offer an experience beneficial enough to warrant its continuation. I will discuss the fact that you only get out of TY what you put in. Leo will discuss the commercialisation of the year, and finally Brendan will close the debate with the proposition. TY is only as good as you make it. This is a sentence students hear repeatedly, and there's a very big problem with it. It assumes that every student is disciplined enough to not become discouraged to work. TY is definitely structured in a more relaxed manner. The school even advertises it as a year with more flexibility and freedom on their website. However, this slightly disordered approach means unless a student is vigilant enough in keeping complacency at bay, fourth years often fall victim to lethargy. No. It'll be the so-called curriculum expects them to be enthusiastic about every single subject and activity organised. But without a clear end goal, because there often isn't, students become disillusioned as they cannot see the purpose of the task at hand. Without being able to identify it, students become trapped in the cycle of inertia. This isn't a problem only in TY. Many, regardless of year, can struggle to motivate themselves, even though there is a clear goal, state exams. Yes.
TY offers a chance to find motivations for other subjects that you might want to study later.
Does it? I mean, how many times have you sat back in class and your phone about TY? It's too broad. Now, not all become dejected by this flaky year. Numerous students can see the end goal, and no matter how abstract and minute it may be. But surely these students don't need this in-between, in many ways, year. These students would be perfectly capable of going straight into fifth year, as they would recognise the need to hit the ground running and start preparing early for the episode. Instead of being allowed to continue their studies, they must find the urge to just not care anymore. Imagine the innumerable advantages of just demolishing it entirely. We could put an end to this leech of motivation. Rather than students rotting away in a year they don't need, we can spend the time and resources on better preparing students in third year and make more time for the fifth years, who are now facing two very difficult years. Once abolished, teachers will have a smaller timetable, allowing them to spend extra time with students from first to sixth who benefit from more class preparation. Furthermore, students who struggle to focus in third year don't receive any additional support in fourth year, causing attention spans to deteriorate. If we removed it, they could receive more help from the teachers the following year. Additionally, the more tailored nature of senior cycle means that engaging with subjects they enjoy and be more inclined to study. The opposition may talk of work experience and the invaluable skills and insights you can gain from it. But I want to remind you that the people who will be preaching this never took part in work experience. They are preaching the importance of lived experiences when they have none themselves. These incredulous hypocrites want to eulogize transition year. However, they left the school that year less times than our school capitalism spotted. TY does not set students up for the university. Instead, they must climb a steeper hill, because not only is this a year that is hard no matter what, they are also trying to shape the residual drowsiness, aimlessness, and tediousness of TY. Ladies and gentlemen, students and staff, propose the motion, if not for your own sake, but for the students to come.
For that fine opening speech on the part of the proposition. We now call on Mr. James Garland to open the case for the opposition.
Adjudicators, men, women, and Leo Cunningham. Too heavily on individual motivation. I think this is actually the benefit of teamwork. So do you believe that senior cycle consists of holding your hand to your teacher constantly? You need that individual motivation, that is a benefit. So, what is education? Is it a mere repetition of Father John's Etchebert, or the learning of Miss Foley's feminist tirades? Does education invoke the learning of industrial poetic techniques for your next English level? English exam, which you can forget tomorrow anyway. I would go as far as to say, education is what remains after you have forgotten what you learned in school. Even Tierney, has this argument been null of education for us all? If we are to agree that education possesses more than mindless repetition and recollection of material, then we are faced with a matter of contention. Does the Junior Cert and Leaving Cert curriculum sufficiently educate? To put it simply, fluency in the Business in Action chapter in the Leaving Cert Business Book will never really help us to truly understand business in action, the same way as actually working in business in action. If only we had a year that gave us work experience, the time to go off to France or Germany to grasp the respectful cultural traditions. No, thank you. To learn skills such as musical instruments, something we are all appreciating right now. To delve into books, even you rented columns. We do. That is that excellent transition. After hearing that Father Conway is a judge for today's debate, I shamelessly thought it would be valuable to mention how TY is an important opportunity to embrace the rich Catholicism of the school by taking part in various retreats run by Father Willow and the opportunity to embark on the El Camino de Santiago retreat. This is what happens in school. TY is the event, and that's what you do in TY. I don't understand. Now, members of the opposition, and I completely understand the common disproven tone which awaits, ready to regard TY as the dossier. For not one moment would we dare to say TY is imperfect, free of fault or error. Reform is certainly needed, but what is key is that the central tenet upon which TY is founded on is that of an understanding and appreciation for education and true learning. Such tenets apparently overrated by those such as Brendan Collins in the proposition. How is a junior cert student supposed to know if he should take applied maths, politics, and society, or the scholarly intellectual endeavour of agricultural science, if he has never been taught this before? Leo Culligan, ironically, would like us to make this blind jump, even while wearing glasses, with the chance for the rest of the scene examples today, a subject that they do not enjoy. Well, the opposition and I offer an alternative to this lead, namely a bridge hanging over the abyss of such ambiguity and confusion. And of course, it takes two sides to build a bridge. So I ask everyone here today to come together to ensure the bridge remains stable and oppose this motion. Thank you very much.
The chair now calls on Mr. Leo Culligan.
Mr. Chairman, adjudicators, members of the opposition, and those making up the audience today. I'm not sure what side of the bed James got out this morning, but I'm going to avoid personal insults. In the 21st century, with technological revolution occurring every half decade, the need for a modernizing and adaptive education system has never been so important. In the United States, students at the age of 15 to 16 are entering their sophomore year, in which every class test goes towards a grade which dictates their ability to pursue third-level education. In Singapore, students of this age are entering school at 7:50 a.m. each morning in preparation for their end-of-school exams. In Ireland, students of this age are gearing up for a state-sponsored film club for the year. Transition year was constructed with the very best intentions. Except
The American education system is actually ranked below the Irish education system in OECD ranking.
when I went to the States say it's last March, I experienced an education system that's far superior to this one. Transition year was constructed with the very best intentions. We all picture fondly the rosy-cheeked ideals of students developing interests in particular subjects, of students participating for the first time in the world of work, and of students breaking free of Ireland and exploring our globe. But they are just that, ideals, not grounded in reality. Emerging from already 3 years of secondary education, with a state exam under their belts, students by the time they enter TY have a very clear vision of the subjects they wish to study. But instead of tailoring,
That's not true, as there's leading to subjects which are not in the junior curriculum.
yes, okay. James, you mentioned ag science, applied maths. Those aren't taught in transition in the school. But instead of tailoring to these preferences, instead of allowing them to really experience the day-to-day goings of their preferred courses, our system forces these scholars to participate in retail academics, in which every course is marketed as a walk in the park, whilst the negatives are covered up. In one way, they taste every subject under the sun, and in another, come away with no understanding at all to the true nature of these subjects. Outside of the lowercase a academics that struggle to divide this year together, other worthwhile experiences do not require dedication of an entire year at all. Whether it be work experience, language exchange, or workshops, to aim a full 16% of our secondary education at these pursuits that when condensed would make up less time than Liz Truss's premiership, is not just unjustified, it is dangerously wasteful. The current urges are living evidence of how one may maximise the experiences of transition without impeding on any school time. Their Australian exchange will take place, not next year when they're at TY, but over the summer, over a summer that does not discriminate against what year one will be. It is clear to anyone that opens their eyes that the benefits of our school's transition year could be harnessed while removing the 9 months of Steven Spielberg that for some reason seems to be attached. The valuable resources taken up by trying to keep this leaky ship afloat for an entire year could be better equipped preparing clergies for the mammoth task of the leaving cycle. Or better yet, complementing the 5th and 6th years that have already taken the plunge. In our current world, in which a master's degree is regularly needed to just get an interview for one's first job, it is unacceptable for our system of education to play fast and loose with our futures. It is not acceptable for any time dedicated to our schooling to be wasted. Now, I'm not saying that it's necessary for us to submerge ourselves under the pressure of the US educational system. We don't need to pack our bags and head into school at 7:50 a.m. each morning like the Singaporeans. But we do need to take advantage of this opportunity we are given to focus our attention on our intellectual growth. By abolishing transition, we can better equip our students to compete in a world in which competition has never been so great. So I ask this House to join with me in supporting this motion and ensuring its passage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Collier, for that fine speech. The Chair notes the irony of the fact that your experience of the American education system took place as part of your transition year of training. The Chair now calls on Her Killian Platt, who will continue the order case for the opposition.
Chairman, adjudicators, members of the proposition, and my colleagues of the opposition. This afternoon, I'll be outlining the utility of the transition year both for the school community and the students themselves. Thus far, the only item of note I can mention from the proposition is the incessant drone of Leo Cunningham failing respiratory system. It remains to be seen if his teammates have any notable additions, perhaps maybe a bar for Ethan Tierney. According to the Department of Education, transition year can be considered to be a time for maturity and development, something our current TYs have yet to achieve. In the interim period between third year and maturity, the transition year students make up the slave labour workforce of Glenstal Abbey School. From labouring in the apple farms to scouring the Glensoil backgrounds for litter and debris, the transition year workforce has done it all. The transition year is an important time for leaving certificate students to learn about potential career options, further their education in other fields outside the academic realm, and to go on language exchanges to explore other cultures. As in the case of the Honourable Gentleman in Brendan Collins, it allows students to explore other pathways that are more attractive for those of us that are less academically minded. Amazingly, even some of our current transition year students have discovered other hobbies, with many clearly showing true entrepreneurship, such as school bartending. However, in light of seeing Bobby Kerr this morning, I might want to take that back. It is an important developmental stage in the education of a young person, as it allows them to explore hobbies that they would otherwise not have time to do. During our transition year program, we did a number of modules that covered topics such as diversity, tolerance, and inclusion of the less fortunate. These modules really helped us understand the diversity of society. Yes?
Is James our walking contradiction on this?
Well, if you let me get These modules really helped us understand the diversity in society and the superficial boundaries that divide us, something Mr. Ethan Tierney has never fully appreciated. Not enough credit is given to those who undergo the strenuous junior certificate examinations. It is important that this is taken into account when considering this motion, as such there is a necessity for a transition period between the junior cycle and the senior leaving certificate. In the words of a famous Austrian artist, what we suffer from today is an excess of education. Ladies and gentlemen, I urge you to oppose this motion.
Chairman, adjudicators, audience. As the last speaker for the proposition, I'd like to thank my colleagues, Ethan and Leo, for their excellence and class, and for the opposition for wasting their time. I would like you to listen attentively, as we all tried to earlier, to listen to a member of this house's two-line solo in the choir. But you might find it easier to hear me. James, I may not read books, but I've read Glenstall's Leaving Cert results. Ag Science isn't offered in 2I, yet Glenstall had 3 H1 students this year with no extra subjects in 2I. Goes to show people knowing what they want to do without this silly idea of a taster. I'm also flattered by your obvious infatuation for me, James. I'm sorry, but I'm in love with myself. As Killian Platt enlightened us on the discovery of new careers in TY, I'd like to just note how management put in place guidance classes balanced between all years this year, from 1st to 6th year. Time. Time is quite the thing, isn't it? It just flies by in a matter of 1, 2, 3 seconds. Gone, lost and unforgiven. As James Garvin stated, all the amazing attractions which TUI offers. Trips to glow up your eyes like the Camino, thoughts of sun in Spain, but what about the laziness and pain of sitting through such stupid classes? To use one's time to take subjects which have no interest to them. To use one's time to complete courses and workshops. Miss Foley, an example of hard work and dedication. Miss managed to complete a PhD while also hand in hand running a secondary school by herself.
whilst also furthering their self-improvement. Now those in TY are 15 to 16. Back in my heyday, in TY the emphasis was TY is as good as you make it. You. Bombarded with classes one after another, of which you may have disinterest in, taken too casually, no emphasis on improvement or learning, but more so on choose me. This subject will get you an H1. Deep down, I already knew the subjects which I wanted to do after my summer exams, when I did 11 subjects. Now, I'm not saying you need to know for certain what you'd like to do after the junior cert, but what about that time? After it, that relaxing 3 months with family, friends, and on one's own. The summer, as we can see, being used by the current third years, as Leo pointed out, to explore their horizons in Australia. And Julie, we don't care that you didn't get to go because of COVID. I'd like you to think about the time you've wasted today, and substance you cannot get back. Forever gone. I'd like to quote Ed Sheeran / Mark Kennedy. My bad habits lead to wide eyes staring into space. And think of your time in TY, about the time that was wasted daydreaming in unneeded classes which you could have used to further yourself in this world. The current 6 years would be gone if this motion had been passed 4 years ago. I would be doing my leaving cert and waiting Father William away in June. But no, I'm here explaining to you about the waste of time, wasting my time. And I'd like to quote what is written in the chair that Mr. Chairman is sitting in. What's learned in youth is engraved in stone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Collins, for that fine, rousing summary of the case for the proposition. We now call on the final speaker of the debate, Mr. Zach Dooley, to summarise the debate on the part of the opposition.
Chairman, adjudicators, members of the deficient proposition and esteemed opposition, and ladies and gentlemen of the audience. This afternoon we have witnessed a titanic clash with the fate of a fine gentleman transition year hanging in the balance. I would like to remind all of you of the arguments of my fellow sixties. In arguing in opposition to the abolishment of transition year, the Right Honourable Gentleman, Mr. James Garvin, has reminded us of the lessons learned outside the classroom in transition. My colleague, Herculean Clapp, has highlighted the critical role of the transition year student as the labourer of Glenstall Abbey School. In fact, just before lunch, Mr. Leopold Kimmelreich interrupted the 6th year English class no less than 2 times, carrying out messages for Wendy in the office. With regard to the arguments in the proposition, I struggle to recall much else besides Mr. Collins furiously typing up his speech during this very debate, or the traitorous Mr. Cullen choosing Dilbarton over Glenstall. Myself and my teammates may find ourselves on the opposite end of this issue to the 50s. However, we do have something in common. None of us sat our junior research examinations, a lasting effect of the COVID-19 pandemic. And while this may have rescued the learned Mr. Collins from what would have been a truly horrifying set of results, one could say that it was dead. Yet, the current batch of transition year students did, in fact, sit their exams. After a year, undoubtedly spent hard at work, ceaselessly studying for the set exams, these men deserved a break. And TY offered them this break. Rather than return immediately to further studies, they are offered a new accepted.
Is that not what TY is called a break? Is that not the issue? It's a break, nothing more.
It's a break from nothing less than traditional education, whereas they get an education in stuff that actually matters. Rather than returning immediately to further studies, they offer a new experience. Outside of Ireland, students receive no such respite from traditional schooling, and this is undoubtedly a driving factor behind the stress and anxiety that at times proves fatal to teenagers worldwide. Whether it be work experience or workshop, The unique environment that this year offers provides an unrivaled opportunity for growth and maturity. And countries across the globe are going to take note. Leo mentioned Singapore. Well, in 2019, the Irish Minister for Education, Richard Bruton, revealed that his counterparts in Singapore were considering implementing a programme similar to the Irish Transition Year. Across the world, young people find themselves overworked, unmotivated and disillusioned to these problems, and Transition Year offers a solution. Ethan told us that you only get out of Transition Year what you put in. I'd like to expand on this. While Ethan himself may have put very little effort into the year, others may beg to differ. For example, Leo gave a stirring attack on TY, labeling it as little more than a glorified film club. However, during TY, he himself managed to set up the Council Sustainable Energy Committee, sneak a trip into the US, and finally to spark an interest in debating. The jump from junior cycle to senior cycle is considerable, and so necessitates a period of transition from one to the other. In their fourth year of secondary education, students across the country prepare for this jump. As Mr. Platt mentioned, an opportunity is given to explore options for life after Benstock. Ahead of these students lie subject choices, career decisions, and life choices that require a year to invest in the process. Mr. Collins complained about the time spent digesting and processing this information, and he said he could have been out of it a bit sooner. Well, I'd like to agree and say we all really do want to see out of this place as soon as possible, Mr. Collins. In conclusion, I would like every single one of you to recall the aims of the proposition. In the face of TY, Leo Culligan would rather you spend a year engrossed in a biology textbook. Ethan Tierney would see you off to college as soon as possible. And Brian Collins, well, he'd rather look at himself in the mirror. To prevent these aims and for the good of humanity, ladies and gentlemen, oppose the motion.
The points of the opposition and the proposition and for concluding the debate. I now invite the adjudicators to retire to the classroom behind us there to consider their verdict, and would like to open the debate to the floor. So if you would like to make a contribution, please stand, place your hand on your head. I would remind you all to desist from personalized or ad hominem remarks, or indeed if the members of the proposition and the opposition would care to continue amongst themselves. Please feel free. Would anyone like to make any other? Yes, sir.
As a former student of Singapore, I can say that there was no more stressing time in my life than 2020 during COVID, unfortunately, than under the Singapore education system.
Oh!
I'd say it wouldn't take much to stress it.
Mr. Collins.
He said it wouldn't take much to stress it. I'd like to put emphasis on what Tibor said during COVID.
Thank you very much for drawing our attention. Okay, if any of the fifth or sixth would like to make a point instead of making noise, that would be welcome. If that is possible. Anyone from fifth year or sixth year with some intelligent points to make? Or is that asking too much? Mr. Dewar?
Yes. I am neutral, but I'd agree that it really depends on the TY coordinator who has been recently changed to better.
Okay. Any other observations, comments? Do any of the team wish to revisit their points or take issue with? Any members of staff perhaps wishing to make?
Very interesting debate so far, gentlemen. Thank you very much from 6th and 5th years for putting in a good performance. Tradition year is an interesting one for me because I graduated school when I was 17, started university when I was 17. I didn't turn 18 until the following March. So when I was in school, teachers were recommending that I would take transition year in the school itself. I went to St. Anthony Killaloe for a year of maturity, which I think I so dearly needed at the time, but chose not to, so I could fast forward my education to be into university at an early age. So looking back at it now, do I think the year in transition year might have been good for me? Possibly. Did I need to do the year overall? Probably not. So I'm kind of in a standstill, and I'm very interested to see what the outcome of this debate maybe it'll be interesting for me for helping me with my decisions in the past itself. No real insight at all. Just
a gap year between their leaving cert and their first year of college. They can defer their CAO points for next year, which we've seen multiple times obviously. And that may give them even more autonomy to construct what they want to do. Because even if both the great leaving cert is more autonomous, college is another step forward. So I think the gap year is a better decision.
I agree with you.
Unity and agreement. Mr. Dooley.
So Ethan basically just said he'd rather TY after the leaving cert rather than before, despite one of Brendan's main points being the fact that TY is a waste of time. And I would like to say, if you did put after the leaving cert, you'd deprive the school of the infinite money glitch that is TY. So.
Thank you very much. We're introducing hard economic realities into the debate. Mr. Collins.
As Zach Dooley kind of just let us know that it's all, how would you say, maybe expose TY students and just kind of take their money, I guess. But as well, during TY, most of the people are 15 to 16, and there isn't a lot of things you can do on your own, as James Garvin said, but be kind of crept along with a stick. And as a gap year, as Ethan Tierney suggested, you have so much more independency and really much more time to mature. So I think it would be much better to have, as that's a so-called TY, after secondary school than have it in secondary school. You can't really do much on your own anyways.
Thank you very much, Mr. Collins. Yes, Mr. Dooley.
Brendan said you'd have more time after the leaving cert, but a year after the leaving cert is the same length as the year before the leaving cert.
Thank you very much for that. Very helpful chronological Mr. Dooley.
One of the years is funded by the Department of Education, the other isn't. So don't you think it's better use of our taxpayers' money?
I would say there's not much, there's really no better use of taxpayer money than the education of our young people.
Useless education. So should we abolish them and put that money into TY and put it in? Or how do we go about it?
There's a difference. There's a difference between the word traditional and useless, which is in fact what I said.
Yeah, Mr. O'Donnell.
It's important to recognise, frankly, that would be any member of this student body missing out on Brother Pullman's TY
Father Dennis.
Mr. Chairman, just as a matter of fact, the idea of transition year originated in Australia, and with some of our contacts with Australians who are quite envious that we have taken over the transition year. Another point I would make is that since we took up transition year, our points in the Leaving Cert have increased almost in a par with us overtaking transition year, which would suggest that, when I would agree that there's a perceived thing that transition year could be a waste of time, but I actually think that even just relaxing away from the academic and tending towards the practical, it gives your mind a bit of a rest. And all I know is that most of our 50 years hit the ground running academically when they come into 50.
Thank you very much. As someone who has lived on the campus since the late Bronze Age, I think Father Dennis's observations are particularly perspicacious in this regard. I see that the adjudicators have returned. I'm now going to call on the chair of the adjudicators, Professor Aidan Conway, to deliver the result.
Dear students and staff, it's been a great privilege to be here this afternoon for this debate, and I'm delighted to have been asked to assist with the adjudication. Now, on occasions like this, I always take the precaution of parking my car facing out, so to make a quick getaway. It probably will be needed after a few moments. I'm really privileged to work with Rona and Stefan on formulating our judgment on this tremendous debate. And the first thing we want to do is to commend everybody involved, these are those who support the whole idea of having this debating competition, but particularly both sets of teams. I think they both deserve a warm Overall, we have a lot of very, very positive comments to make about how both teams entered into this. We felt that particularly the fifth years had a very strong stage presence, and the fifth years are here. Had a very strong stage presence and really showed a tremendous sense of working as a team, and we value that very much. We thought you're engaged very well with the opposition. Your comments at times were quite pithy. We felt you didn't quite have the certain sense of sharpness that the sixth form had in terms of making cutting remarks. We felt they'd studied far more from Brother Cornwall than And we also felt in regard to the 6 years, your arguments are really very, very clear. And they reached some considerable level of depth. That you were able to back up your points, you were able to refute the opposition well. You summarised very well. We felt like that was something you could take on board for next year, just to summarise a little more. But on both sides, we thought the humour was very good. At times we got a little bit personal, but overall it was very good. And really want to commend you all very well. And so we have to choose a winner, and we were unanimous in our choice and our decision, and we give it to the sixth.
Thank you very much for that very insightful judgment, and to Rona and to Stefan as well for their expertise there. So in that way, we've had the official adjudication, and the motion has been defeated. However, it is the custom to put this to the House as well. So those who support the motion will be asked to call aye, and those who are opposing it will be asked to call nay. So, that this House would abolish transition year. Those in favour? Aye! Those against?
Nay.
I
the pleasure of being audience members today, I would like to thank first of all of those who prepared the debate and have suffered the humiliation of all the cutting remarks and the personal insults which aren't meant, we know, but are funny. Thank you very much to all of you for the preparation, for the statistics, for the international research, little bit you know when you went to Delbarton, etc. But this was the emotion. It was really lovely. Such a great debate today. So thank you very much, first of all, to all our speakers. I'd like to thank those who adjudicated and indeed kept time and so on. I've done this myself once or twice in the past, and I know that it's an awesome privilege and a big responsibility, a big task, and we really listen very hard. And I know that our adjudicators will be very, very, very tired. So thank you, adjudicators, and we will wish particular good wishes to you, Phil Conley, and thank you very much for coming in today to be with us. Thank you. Driving a bunch of teenagers under control, and I'm talking about, lessons. But put them all in the same room, and one look from brother from mom, and fifth year just die away. Amazing. Let's give them a big round of applause. Through the week a few times, but probably all had a really lovely end to the year, a special arts festival. Thank you very much to everybody involved in that. All the different names I hope have been mentioned across the week. I'm going to sing with anybody out there. I just want to thank everybody who in so many different ways, be it presenting, performing, drawing, art, music, camera work, whatever it might be, including the slave labor, is that how it's described? Thank you very much to everybody who made